Hey there, space weather enthusiasts. We've got another daily space weather video coming at you. We've got some coronal mass ejections to track. One about to strike Earth, coming late tomorrow night, or perhaps early in the day on July 27th. We've got huge plasma filaments, which perhaps ought to get named. And of course, as you may have come to expect, the most detailed solar imagery and comprehensive space weather you'll find in the known universe. Hey, Elon. Are you tuning in yet? That's the past 24 hours in SDO, ionized iron, and ionized iron, 304 and 193 angstroms respectively. So we've got some setting regions up here in the northwest. As we stated yesterday on yesterday's video, that is the most likely place to see X-class solar flares. The largest flare did indeed come from that region, the northwestern limb. You'll see huge plasma filaments all over the solar disk. The likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections remains at 100%. Here is the eastern limb, and there you can see that massive filament rising above the Earth scale there. It is, we can't even tell how big it is yet because part of it is still obscured behind the northeastern solar limb. So here's the North Polar region. We'll show that briefly. There is a prominence up there as well. You can see that filament kind of dancing around there, sort of on the east side, which is over on the left. And here's a close-up of that massive rising filament. I think we may have to get a name for that one. But before we do anything like that, let's talk about the channel. We've tried and tried and tried and tried to support the channel via basic views. Of course, you know, the channel is monetized after all. However, since we make just this side of nothing to put out the content, we do have paid affiliate links. One of them is the Hemp Lucid link, so check out the products if you haven't before, or even if you have, perhaps it's time to re-up your Hemp Lucid products. All kinds of different items available there, whether it's CBD tinctures, mushroom gummies, or mushroom stacks, CBD body balms, CBD gummies, lots of products, lots of quality in the products. And drop us a line in the comments if you've picked any up. Links in the description to our Hemp Lucid shop. Thanks to everybody who's helped support the channel via that paid affiliation. There's also an Amazon link below there, and highly recommend the Drive Medical Adjustable Non-Tilt Over Bed Table. If you like to entertain, this will be very useful for you, as these things are, let's just put it this way, having a couple of these things in your living room is just fantastic. It's only $53. It's got the adjustable spring-loaded top there, so you can adjust it all the way from, not sure exactly what the height is, all the way from 28 to 45 inches height. It's just fantastic. You can find that in our office furniture solution section on our Amazon shop, linked below the video there as well. You can also find the link on the homepage at smashomash.com. Last but not least, today's featured product is not the Fauci Face of Evil shirt or the Fauci Face of Evil bath mat. Today's featured product is the Galactic Federation Special Forces unit patch. If it looks like a unit patch, it's because it is one. Now, unit patches, that is military unit patches, they are always symbolic. So this one has proper symbolic branding. What it means is the spiral refers to the Milky Way galaxy. The lightning bolt represents instantaneous galactic scale reach, and the key represents signals integrity and security. You may see a bright spot in the upper right of the image also. That represents classified. What's not classified is what's going on in the galaxy. Are you mad about what's going on in the galaxy? Well, fortunately, there are some folks out there that are bringing freedom and liberty back to the galaxy. It's the Galactic Federation Special Forces. So I would say to each of you, Universum Liberate. This handsome design is available in all kinds of different products that we just showed you. So check it out at the Redbubble shop, also linked below the video and on the homepage. And let's get back to space. Space, a frontier. These are the voyages of the SDO. That is yesterday plus today. And we've seen a decline in solar activity. This sunspot evaporating. Sunspots setting over here. A little bit of growth back in these areas. And a reverse polarity sunspot right here. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the video. Here is the colorized magnetogram depicting yesterday plus today as well. July 24th and July 25th to date. So that's what's going on as far as sunspots go. It's a degradation of solar activity. And let's move to volcanoes. And by the way, quick reminder, folks. Please don't pole vault the caldera. So there's what's going on in Iceland. Looks like that cinder cone is growing. It looks like the lava levels are maybe dropping off here. It looks like it is now contained in the cinder cone. So it looks like some sort of a downgrade there at the Fagradalsfjall volcanic complex, the volcanic fissure complex there in southwestern Iceland. Ubinas erupted in spectacular fashion, and that is too close to a Vulcanian-style eruption. The exclusion zone around Ubinas is like 4 kilometers. Don't get hit by a lava bomb. Please obey the volcanic exclusion zones, as it could be unfortunate to be hit by a lava bomb. Wouldn't you say? Anyway, here's what else is erupting. Abiko is producing a 12,000-foot ash plume. Mayan is producing an unknown-size ash plume. Ulawun now here back on the list. Eruption observed by ground observer, no indication of an ash plume there. Fuego, no emissions from Fuego in Guatemala. However, Nevado del Ruiz exploding in Colombia, flight level 200. That's a 20,000-foot ash plume. Similarly sized ash plume from the exploding Sangay in Ecuador, flight level 200. Flight level 230 over Sabancaya in Peru as it explodes. It's a 23,000-foot ash plume. And Ubinas, 23,000-foot ash plume. Exclusion zone there 4 kilometers as pyroclastic flows and ballistic volcanic bombs have been reported. Also looking at seismicity here, the largest quake of the past 24 hours just occurred while we did the show prep. Yeah, the show prep. Who knew the space weather videos would be a show? It's official, folks. The videos are a show. If you look up the definition of the word show, you'll agree. Anyway, let's check out the list here. Lots of earthquakes there around southern Alaska and around the Aleutians, although none over a 5 magnitude. We'll report quakes of a 5 or greater magnitude on this video. So it looks like Timor-Leste had a 5.5. Just north of Australia there. Kuril Islands had a 5.1, just south of Kamchatka. Central Turkey had a 5.5. That's a little more rare of an event. Probably caused some damage there, as there are lots and lots of ancient buildings in central Turkey. Last but not least, Saipan had a 5.6. That was at extreme depth, over 370 kilometers estimated depth for that. And it's time to get back to space. So here we've pulled up the SDO 24-hour video featuring 304 angstroms. It's ionized helium by itself. And we'll also show briefly 171 angstroms, the house favorite wavelength. And if you've got a house favorite wavelength, let us know in the comments what it is. Let us know in the comments anything you'd like it to let us know. And let's talk about the radio flux and the other incoming space weather. Yeah, incoming space weather, CMEs, folks, are on the way. 10.7 centimeter radio flux now down to 165 solar flux units. Again, solar activity has declined in the past couple of days. And there you can see that decline depicted by the black line here. That is the 10.7. The red line here is the sunspot number. And you might be able to see how proportional those are. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux and sunspot number are the proportional data sets depicting solar activity. So next, looking at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard, here's the NOAA Enlil spiral, and they're forecasting the CME impact right about the same time as we did. We did suggest the possibility that it may arrive late in the day tomorrow, because you want to be a little bit ahead of these things, folks. However, NOAA stating there that it's going to arrive early in the day on the 27th, Wednesday. So that's the NOAA forecast. And if you read the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard blurb, expecting a possible only a KP 4.67. I wouldn't expect it to get above a 6.33, but hey, that's, you want to over forecast things like blizzards and space weather impacts. So them's the facts. NOAA forecasting an impact to arrive actually late in the day tomorrow there, going into geomagnetic unrest on the 26th. NASA's forecast here does not even show an impact for tomorrow, and it is showing a CME going in the opposite direction there. We'll have to take a look at that and see if that is a correct forecast by NASA. That's NASA's Enlil spiral there on the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. Continuing right along, here is Earth's. Just a minute. Let's pause for station identification. You've reached the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Here are the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space, and it's geomagnetically calm. We do have more magnetohydrodynamic pressure on the far side of Earth. In other words, the non-sun side, the dark side of the planet there at the beginning. And you can see that attempting to reach static equilibrium. So since then, things have calmed down even more. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground for the past 4 hours. And it is a geomagnetically calm situation. We should get a good signal tomorrow night or early on Thursday morning when that CME indeed arrives. Planetary K-index currently at 2. KP2 is the current situation. For you new viewers, that's an average of global geomagnetism. KP2. Moving to the real-time solar wind next. We have a very diffuse solar wind density here, only less than 1 proton per cubic centimeter, raising the possibility that it could be an error. Solar wind speed here nominal, around 400 kilometers per second. The rest of that is unremarkable. And let's move on to the GOES magnetometers. So there are the GOES magnetometers, just a steady range there. The GOES 18 did get some pretty low readings here, all the way down to 63 nanotesla. And let's move to the heliospheric current sheet, since the incoming South Pole current sheet was canceled. Yeah, canceled. So check it out. There's a South Pole current sheet, and whoops, now it's gone. So that's an indication that we could have additional sunspot activity rising in the south, or maybe that new reverse polarity sunspot is about to grow. The top view ecliptic plane field plot, there it is. South Pole current sheet canceled. No longer on the way. It is gone. Now, of course, if you went to a different latitude on the ecliptic plane, in other words, if you went north or south, namely to the south, you would find a South Pole current sheet down there, but this is depicting the ecliptic plane. So anyway, that's the situation for the heliospheric current sheet. Just more North Pole current sheet headed this way. Here's our line of sight field plot depicting the sun's B field in blue. And it's looking more like solar maximum. And we're still several months out, something like 8 or 9 months out from solar maximum, I would suspect. Just keep in mind, folks, that strong solar cycles tend to have a shorter periodicity than weak solar cycles. Let's move to coronal holes next. So here's our coronal hole line of sight plot. And we've got a combination here of north and south pole oriented coronal holes here. Oh, some north pole coronal holes here coming through. There you can see the B field being sort of pushed back there with some strong north pole magnetism in the southern hemisphere. There's the last image. And let's move to our 211 angstroms wavelength from SDO. So was there a sudden lurching? Not really. Just the magnetometers picking up that coronal hole. So we'll see some coronal holes here showing up north of this sunspot. So right in here, there's a North Pole coronal hole. These are North Pole coronal holes, and these are South Pole coronal holes. And let's move to sunspots. Yeah, sunspots. So first of all, let's see what's going on the Integrated Space Weather Analysis site. Again, we've had a degradation of sunspots and solar activity in general since yesterday. Sunspot 3380 is reverse polarity. It looked like it might be switching back to normal, but it's really not. It's the main umbra there is certainly of North Pole polarity. Besides that, not a lot of changes, but we've got a lot of setting groups there in the west, so we'll have a huge dip in sunspot number unless new sunspots rise or form. And check out these sweet images. Here is 1600 plus 1700 angstroms from SDO. Again, the most active region, you can see clearly the brightest region is up here, and it's actually growing a little bit there. So you can see some growth right there on the leading umbrae there. So it remains the most likely place for a large solar flare, in my opinion. And here's that reverse polarity sunspot. So that main umbra there is of North Pole orientation. It is officially a reverse polarity sunspot. Don't worry, we've also got the SDO intensity gram once again for you here. That is SDO continuum. We'll zoom way in here just to give you some more detail there. And let's talk flares and energetic particles since we had another SEP that struck. Yeah, a solar energetic particle event. So that's an exciting thing. So here is the GOES proton flux. We almost got into warning levels there. We do have some polar radio brownouts likely caused by that. Peak flux occurred around 2000 universal time yesterday evening. Since then, it has subsided quite a bit. So, but there also was an uptick there in the greater than or equal to 50 mega electron volt proton flux. And here's the deabsorption region predictions. And there indeed you can see some little polar radio brownouts. Looks like they've mostly subsided here. And those equatorial radio brownouts, those are caused by the solar X-ray output, as the D layer is attenuated by that ionizing X-ray radiation. Here you can see some likely minor polar radio brownouts. Those are caused by the solar energetic particle event. Next, we'll talk X-rays. Yeah, X-rays. They never make it to the ground level. That's why we have to measure them from space. They're filtered out by the time they reach the bottom of the mesosphere. So they never make it to the stratosphere, folks. You got to have a spacecraft up above the stratosphere to measure the X-rays, and preferably above the mesosphere, somewhere in the ionosphere or higher up there. But anyway, there's the GOES X-ray flux. Largest flare of the past 24 was indeed an M1.5 approximately. Peak flux was 2 o'clock this morning. Let's take a look at our custom videos of that. There is SDO 131 plus 94 angstroms. And as forecast, we've got the largest solar flare occurring in the northwestern limb. Here's a little closer view of that. A bit of a money shot for you. Again, the most likely place to see a large flare remains somewhere on the western limb. especially the northwestern limb. That is what's going on as far as solar energetic particles and solar flares and so forth. Moving right along, I want to know what's going on overhead, so I use skyandtelescope.org's star chart. I find it delightful. We are located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And that, my friends, foes, and neutrals, is what's going on. Jupiter, right near the apex of its path across the ecliptic. Here's your solar system forecast before we talk about coronal mass ejections. And there has been another massive one. Remember what we showed you on the NASA Enlil spiral? There's where things will be in a week. NASA had that last CME coming out like this. Pretty much the opposite direction of the Earth. So let's see what's going on. Probably looking at some coronagraphs. So there are yesterday's coronagraphs from George Mason University. And right around 1500 once again, you'll see a major halo CME. A coronal mass ejection that shows ejecta on all sides of the coronagraph, which is often an indication that it's headed directly toward Earth, or an indication that it's headed directly away from Earth. Which way do you think it's directed? You can let us know in the comments, or you can just wait a few minutes and we'll tell you. There are today's coronagraphs from George Mason University, an additional 33 frames. That's not many frames, so let's move on. Here's Soho Lasco C2 and C3, and boom, there goes that CME. We'll let that play through one more time for you, and then we'll show stereo A as well. About 1600 or so, a halo CME has occurred. So stereo A is located very close to the Earth right now. They are in the tediously slow process of overtaking each other. Also, stereo B is practically in line with the Earth, making it bad times to attempt to forecast CME impacts. It's not very good for trying to calculate the trajectory, let me tell you. However, you can use deductive reasoning to do this regardless, which is what we do on the channel on the regs. Here's stereo A on the left, and we pause this here to show the halo. So check it out, great halo eruption there, coming out around 1600, 1700 Universal Time yesterday. Nearly a perfect halo there. And which direction do you think it's headed, folks? Which direction do you think it's headed? Here is our, that is a custom 24-hour video featuring SDO 193 angstroms, as well as Soho Lasco C2 in red and C3 in blue. Now, one of the ways we can tell if a CME is earthly directed, when you see that halo, what you want to do is look for plasma motion somewhere on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. I don't see any, do you? Let's move in a little bit closer. Do you see any motions associated with that? All I see is a little flash behind this coronal plasma here. So that is an indication that it is not earthly directed. So clearly from the far side of the sun there are no plasma gesticulations happening at that moment. There's 193 all by itself. So NASA's right with this one. That CME not earthly directed. It's pretty much the opposite direction of Earth. And let's move to filaments. So we've got the El Teide, Spain ground-based solar observatory here. And this filament up here is quite huge. Again, the likelihood of additional CMEs is nearly 100%. There's also a huge filament down here. And it looks like the Cardi B filament has reformed, so that's still legit. It's a lot of it ejected and collapsed, but now it's back. That's still the Cardi B filament, folks. So guess what? If you haven't joined us on X, the brilliant rebranding of Twitter. Oh, it's just called X. Hey, folks, I'm so good at branding, I'm just going to rebrand everything to X. SpaceX, AIX, everything X. I'm not an infantile mind who's terrible at branding or anything. No, I'm an ultra supra genius called Elon Musk. What an absolute cretin. All right, so anyway, some filaments could get named, like this one down here, this one here, and also this one up here. So guess what? I'm going to name it. And if you don't like it, you ought to join us on Twitter and follow the hashtag NameThatFilament. Twitter, now known as X. What a great idea. It's just called X. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I'll tell you what could possibly go wrong. It's an idiotic name. Hashtag NameThatFilament? Never mind. We've decided to name it the Nicki Minaj filament. So that's this one up here, by the way, if you're wondering. The Nicki Minaj filament, folks. If you want to name filaments after brain-dead lunatics or living people, join us over on Twitter. Follow the hashtag NameThatFilament, and you too can name solar filaments after living and or brain-dead humans. Remember, folks, the face of evil always exposes itself to you. I don't know why that is. I think it's just because it's so arrogant that it just thinks it can just lie to your face and everybody's just going to believe it. I guess certain brainwashed idiots will actually do that. Anyway, Twitter, now known as X. Again, great branding, Elon. Oh, so smart. Just brilliant. Certain people think that they're movie supervillains. But instead, they have the minds of an 8-year-old. Not sure what is up with that. Why did you open a new tab? Why did you open a new tab? Anyway, we're also on Instagram. Follow us over there for things like daily lifestyle and fitness posts, diet stuff, pictures of food. Follow us over on smashomash.com. That is our homepage. You can find our links to our social media over there, smashomash.com, the official homepage of this channel, launched in 2019 in response to the pathetic, putrid, and disgusting censorship, mainly of Facebook, but also of all the big tech organizations, such as Twitter, where the censorship continues. If you think that Elon Musk has fixed free speech on the internet, you are a sycophantic, deluded cultist. Elon Musk has not fixed free speech on the internet. Censorship marches on, goose-stepping to try to destroy the world on all social media sites. So, them's facts. And let's talk filaments for one more minute here. Check it out. We've got some crazy... Seriously, this is berserk imagery. Some difference imagery here. 304 angstroms with the running difference, I believe it is. The running difference. And it's just berserk. Again, folks, keep in mind that this channel has barely even started to make content. We just need to be incentivized to create content. We've been nothing but disincentivized to create content over the past 6 years. So if you haven't pressed like, subscribe, share, etc., if you haven't visited our websites or done things to support the channel, wish us luck in continuing to create these videos. We would prefer them to continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view. Before we get to bonus features, here are the past couple of hours from the GOES 18 SUVI. And things are pretty calm, but again, the most likely place to see a large solar flare would be indeed in the northwestern limb, right up here. That brings us to bonus features. So before we get to meteorology, we cover some of the more fringe features of space weather, because who knows when they could be relevant. Here is our satellite charging map from the satellite's community dashboard. And there are some minor surface charging hazards caused by low-energy electrons there in the eastern Pacific, also western Mexico. GOES electron flux here in a nominal range. Pretty unremarkable there. Here's the one-year chart to put it in context from solon.info. Just kind of at a low to moderate range there for the electron flux. NOAA forecasting a slight dip. And when the CME impacts, you can expect this to be a more significant dip down there. Anyway, the green boxes are the forecast, the yellow diamonds are the observation. The electron flux is measured right about here at this slice of the atmosphere, the F layer of the ionosphere. Feel free to pause the video on this frame if you're not familiar with electromagnetic radiation penetration, chemical concentrations in the upper atmospheric layers, or things like temperatures. Here is the ionosphere. And the ionosphere is a little janky right now. There are some oddities happening around the central Atlantic Ocean, for example. We are definitely seeing some significant low-frequency anomalies happening there. So if that's all Greek to you, don't worry, folks. We'll show the anomalygram as well. So here's the anomalygram depicting anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. You're going to see a bunch of red pop up here around there you go, bunch of red popping up in North Africa, the central Atlantic there. Not real major. You can expect to see a lot more red after the CME impact, which is coming late in the day tomorrow, or possibly early in the day on Thursday, the 27th. Anyway, here's the latest image. That's 11:15 Universal Time ionogram, and there is the anomalygram. Things actually really normal right now in terms of anomaly from the 30-day median. We also like to show the total electron content because you never know when it will be relevant to something. If it can be used to forecast earthquakes, we welcome that. Feel free to pause the video on this frame if you're not familiar with those data. Here is our CTIPE, the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere electrodynamics model. And we are seeing continued anomalies here south of the Indian Ocean, around the Southern Ocean, Antarctica, south of Africa. So some free electrons certainly out of place there. That is the free electrons from ground level to about 12,500 miles of altitude. Here is the anomaly from the 10-day average over North America. And we are seeing some high electron content anomalies over places like Mexico. We'll let that play through one more time, and then we'll show the latest images of the closest star in ultra-high res. So there you can see those high electron content anomalies there in Mexico. Here is the latest image in SDO intensitygram and magnetogram. So first of all, this sunspot, again, the polarity is reverse on this sunspot. So there it is. You can see the main umbra is clearly North Pole here. And this is actually gaining some complexity here. So this is an interesting sunspot to say the least. It even has a little neutral zone in here. That is an interesting sunspot. Seems way too early to be a cycle 26 sunspot, and it seems way too early to be a cycle 24 sunspot. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Also, this group over here looks like it's gaining some complexity. Let's actually get a little in the middle of that. There we go. Again, that's the most likely place to see an X-class or more M-class type flares. And just to show you what a normal polarity South Pole sunspot looks like. So there's what you're normally going to see in the Southern Hemisphere, a leading South Pole umbra, followed by trailing North Pole umbra. Here you've got a leading North Pole umbra. So that is a reverse polarity sunspot. Here's the full disk rock back again. Solar activity has declined quite a bit in the past few days. Moving right along to our meteorology segment. Do you like our meteorology segments? Let us know in the comments what you think. We like to give out little tidbits so that people have all of the tools in their toolbox to forecast things like their own weather. Yeah, we empower our viewers. We don't move goalposts, try to gaslight our viewers, talk utter nonsense about things like weather and cosmology and climate. Let's look at sea surface temperatures. So I've heard some clamoring about the hot water there around Florida. It's like 90 degrees. And however, that 90-degree water isn't super far above normal. It's only about 3 degrees above normal temperature there where that green circle is. That's your sea surface temperature anomaly map. And I'll tell you what's an anomaly. There is some seriously hot water in the North Atlantic. So, yeah, I mean, is fresh water from the Beaufort Gyre shutting down the North Atlantic meridional oscillation? Well, it certainly isn't, because look at all the hot water there. I mean, come on, folks. Are you still in the grand solar minimum cult? Zarkova is not a good cult leader, by the way. And the high priests of the grand solar minimum cult are blowhards. Blowhards who have an inability to see the basic facts of what's going on the planet and on the sun and in space. And they're also cosmology imbeciles. I got to make a shirt that says imbecile, imbecile. Because, folks, the word imbecile is not just a noun. It is also an adjective. So anyway, here are the surface winds. We're going to put up surface winds and sea surface temperature anomaly. So there you go. There are surface winds and sea surface temperature anomaly. We'll show the whole planet. There's the Atlantic Ocean. A little anomalously cool in the southern hemisphere. A little anomalously warm in the northern hemisphere. Here's the Arctic Ocean. Some rather stark variations there. This area is anomalously cold for all you grand solar minimum enthusiasts. There you go. There's a spot that's nearly 6 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. Quick, get in your bunker, folks. The sun's shutting down. Oh my God, the sun is shutting down because reasons. How about the sea surface temperature anomalies for the Pacific Ocean? Got bands of both high and low temperature anomalies there. Sea surface temperature anomalies for the Indian Ocean, depicted here. And sea surface temperature anomalies for the Southern Ocean. So there you go. I don't know. Hopefully I made somebody angry. And remember, folks, people like JFK Jr. who make everybody angry are the people who are probably giving out real information. So, and of course, don't take that as a political endorsement. I'm not endorsing anybody probably ever when it comes to politics. By the way, this tropical system here has moved up to the northern portion of the Philippines. And it's just about on landfall there. Anyway, let's continue on here with our meteorology segment. Yowzers, it looks like it may have intensified too. Dag. Nearly 100-mile-per-hour winds there, easily sensed. That is a serious typhoon. Anyway, so those are the surface winds of this side of the planet. Here are the jet streams. Wow, the jet stream is not going to help with this. This thing is going to keep hanging out here, folks. That is not optimal. There's not a lot of wind shear, so that is going to loiter, in my opinion. Here are the jet streams of the Western world. You know, the Americas, as we've got this anticyclone that we've been talking about over now over New Mexico, moving toward West Texas, and some pretty big bends in a jet stream there over the U.S. Here are the surface winds of this side of the planet, surface winds of the central world, and the jet streams of the central world, still blowing backwards over the northern Indian Ocean. Them are the facts. By the way, let's talk about the ozone layer for a minute. Now, when you hear about ozone, ozone is typically a reference to pollution. The ozone layer is located way up in the stratosphere, the lower portion of the stratosphere. It's responsible for filtering out UV light. So that's the ozone layer, not to be confused with ozone pollution. That's usually around city areas. It's that smell you get before a rainstorm. That's the ozone trapped in the lower troposphere. So very different from the ozone layer. Don't get them confused. The ozone layer is the stratosphere. Ozone pollution is what you smell before a thunderstorm at the troposphere layer. Did you know that you can view the ozone layer? If you're worried about holes in the ozone layer, well, you can see them on windy.com. So that's pretty cool, right? The ozone layer, you can see holes in it, right? And where are the ozone holes? Well, everybody knows that they're around Antarctica. So these are the lowest levels of the ozone. But then there are very high levels of ozone in the southern hemisphere as well, like around New Zealand, for whatever reason. The ozone layer here quite a bit thicker. So those are the variations in the ozone layer. And this is largely responsible for the variations in ultraviolet light. In fact, I think you can even bring up the UV index. And that will affect things. Obviously, the sunniest part of the planet here is over northern Africa, where it's a bit on the warm side at the moment. So let's see. If we zoom in there, let's see if we can see any variation. Now, this is mostly going to be caused by clouds. But it's also associated with the ozone layer. So lots of features there on the windy.com map. Just a little bit of information there about the ozone and its filtration of ultraviolet light and so forth. So let's get back to our regularly scheduled meteorology segment. Get me out of the way. There we go. Here is shortwave radiation over the Americas. It depicts clouds and fog. Check out those sweet equatorial cloud layers, folks. A lot of convection happening around the equator of the planet. That's normal. And if you think it's chemtrails, I don't know. I'm at a loss. By the way, join us on Twitter for hilarious conversations about chemtrails. Now, some people even seem to think that weather modification is controlling where the smoke goes. However, winds control where the smoke goes, and mankind isn't controlling winds. So here's your smoke map. And if you are a meteorology ignoramus, by all means, continue watching our channel, as we will just cite a couple facts every day to the point where you might even find yourself able to forecast your own weather, in which case you'll stop believing in fictional phenomenon. So there's your smoke forecast there from firesmoke.ca. Some smoke coming to the northeast in the coming days. Here is our weather.gov map. Weather.gov, if your location is lit, click your location. On the National Weather Service site, weather.gov is where we currently are accessing their data. A bunch of weather warnings there, mostly of the heat advisory type. Also some air quality warnings around the Great Lakes states. And here come some forecasts. So since we've got temperature anomalies there in the forecast, here's your temperature anomaly forecast for the next 72 hours based on a GFS model. Very hot temperatures here coming to places like Missouri. Looking at like 16 degrees C above normal there. Missouri, Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska. Anyway, you see the map. That's why we put it up. Temperature anomaly forecast in degrees C. Here is the jet stream forecast, which controls major weather patterns. Mankind is not controlling the jet stream. So stop with the nonsense about, about weather mods. Mankind is incapable of controlling major weather patterns. Mankind is able to make tiny little movements with a specific storm. Keep in mind, this map is depicting thousands and thousands of miles. An area that mankind is incapable of controlling the overall thermodynamics of. Anyway, that's the jet stream forecast, and like we said a couple days ago, you can see this anticyclone here. It's going to sort of hang out around the Texas stovepipe. So that is a high pressure zone, which is blowing wind outward. They rotate clockwise in the northern hemisphere. 72-hour GFS, 250 millibar wind forecast, aka the jet stream. Last but not least, here's pressure and precipitation for the same period and the same model, the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. And it's almost time to close this thing out. This video is getting kind of lengthy, so let's do it. And once again, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Here's lightning for the past about 10 hours. We had a bit of lightning here across Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. Congratulations. We're frankly surprised that you've realized the channel exists. Here's a real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. Powered by blitzertung.org. Or if you're from Bavaria, blitzertung.org. If you're from Bavaria, you got to roll your R's. That's just, yeah. Anyway, we do have some minor thunderstorm activity here just west of State College, Pennsylvania, the location of the famous Penn State University. Quite a bit of lightning there in Central Europe as well. By the way, if you enjoy the content, press like, subscribe, and share. If you're an influencer, drop us a line. You want us to appear on your channel and talk about space weather? You want us to talk about nonsense on YouTube? We've got that covered. We've also got playlists that have nothing to do with space weather, so check those out. What about driving, riding, and pro tips? We got it. Pro tips, folks. Just the tip. Press like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Maybe support the channel by other means, like financially. And by the way, turn off your harp bases and stop spraying, bro. Turn off your harp bases, bro, and stop spraying. Please, it's really bad, bro. It's really bad. Also, smashomash.com/smash team is where you can support the channel. It's almost like Patreon, just better. That is our, quote, paywall, end quote. Why? Because in 2018, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped the maximum security social media stockade, Facebook, to the internet underground where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find the videos, maybe you can hire the Smash team. No, you certainly can. Just head to smashomash.com. You'll find all kinds of links there. Cheers. I feel like a broken record. If you're watching the videos for free, you should be thanking the Smash team for keeping these videos existent, publicly visible, and free for all to view. These videos are like 1 second from going behind a paywall every single day. Smashomash.com/smash team. The best value is the gold annual paid-up subscription. It's almost like getting 4 months of the gold membership for free. Check it out, the weather.gov map, the radar.weather.gov map. Pretty sweet. They've added the dead zones on the Doppler radar because this is going to prevent people from coming up with more nonsense about weather. In other words, when rain moves off into these pink zones, guess what? It's not detectable on the radar, and people will say that's weather modification, it's chemtrails, it's NASA hiding snow, or other crap by people who don't understand how the basic instruments that they're using to forecast the weather work. Doppler radar systems are ground-based systems that measure vertical motion in the air column, like ice crystals, water droplets. Here's the view of the lower 48. And here is clouds and fog. It's the shortwave radiation map, 3.9 micrometers. Here's 6.19 micrometers. That is water vapor. And once again, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News. We'll close out the video with a recap of your lower 48 as we bring your space weather and Earth weather together. There it is, U.S. Doppler radar. And I love that they put the dead zones in there. It's just, thank you, National Weather Service. Thank you, NOAA. It's radar.weather.gov. It'll create slightly less crap on the internet about geoengineering and weather modification and chemtrails and solar radiation management and all the other crap that isn't happening that people think is happening because it's theoretically possible. Lots of things are theoretically possible. Global thermonuclear war is theoretically possible. Is it actually occurring? Well, I'd say the answer is probably no. We would see evidence of it in the space weather data. Anyway, there's the lower 48 clouds and fog, and here's the lower 48 water vapor map. And you can see that anticyclone right over here rotating clockwise. It's going to be pulling some moisture down here toward Kansas and Missouri. Anyway, it's time to close this thing out. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News. We remain surprised that you found that the channel exists. In fact, we're so surprised that you frightened us into the bunker. So I'm headed back where it's safe in the bunker. While I'm gone, may that solar wind be at your back. A bunker time saves 9. Whoa!